Paul Brazeau here on the OG alongside Joe Giglio. I'm Joe Ovies. He's the Associate Commissioner of Basketball.
All right, now we get to the referees, right?
Yeah, I guess we
waited long enough. I asked you like one easy question, and now
yeah. The softball pitch came in. We hit that out.
So, okay.
You need to get Kersey on the text line. You got to get a lifeline here.
So there has been, I feel like, and maybe it's just because of social media, maybe it's because of what we do, but I do feel like there have been more instances where we've talked about officiating, or officiating has been the story. Do you feel like that's been the case this season in ACC basketball?
I don't think it really. Officiating this year is the worst it's ever been until next year. And then that year, it'll be the worst.
And then it's the worst. Okay.
So yeah. I don't think it's really, Joe, to be honest, and I'm not making jokes here, I don't think it's any worse, better. You know, it's a hard game to officiate.
Of course.
The NFL, the NBA, you know, I was fortunate to work there. In the NFL, they spend oodles and boodles amounts of money on officiating. And 5 weeks later, we're still talking about the pass interference, maybe in the Super Bowl.
Right.
So, you know, officiating in all sports, it's toxic. You know,
yeah.
We're in a new environment, social media and Twitter. I've got observers. I got 10,000 observers at every game.
That's what he
says.
says.
Help me
Just
out.
Ask him on Twitter.
Yeah, well, look. I brought this up to Swafford back in the day. You don't need a sky judge for football. You just need to put 9 fans in a room in a Greensboro office with all the banks of monitors and Twitters, and they'll have that thing figured out in 5 seconds.
Done.
But I do feel like there are some ways that officiating can become more consistent. And the one thing that I've been pointing out to our audience when they get ramped up about stuff is look at these guys' schedules, okay? Is there a way to alleviate the schedules where you have a key ACC official who's working his 5th game in 5 nights in 3 different time zones? Is there a way to alleviate that? I mean, you said the NFL spends oodles of monies on officials. I mean, is it as simple as an investment of making sure that, look, these are ACC officials, or you have an agreement with another league? I don't know if it's the Big South or whoever you want it to be, but this is your group. They stick together, and you're not cycling through guys on any given night. Is that possible?
Yes, we have our officiating alliance is the Big East and ourselves, the Atlantic 10, and we have Big South Colonial, the MEAC. Who am I forgetting? Northeast Conference.
Okay.
So and the MAC, the New York-based MAC. So, and that is the goal, is to limit travel, to send, have an official, this type of thing, go up and work at Boston College on Monday. You're at Providence College on Tuesday, still within the alliance. Maybe you're at Rhode Island on Wednesday, or UMass on Wednesday, or UConn on Wednesday. So that's what we're trying to do overall in our travel and our assignments, but we also have some other parameters. You only can have a team so many times during the year, unless there's a weather issue and we've got them scramble at the end and that kind of thing. So it doesn't work perfectly over 4.5 months, but that's what we're really trying to do. And then Joe's brought it up to me, and others. You've noticed on some of our Monday games when we have a single game, we work with our other conferences, the Southeast Conference and the Big 12 and so on. So that we don't always have what you would think of as an ACC official primary,
crew, right? Yeah,
working on some games when we can have our guys go to their conference for a night, they come to us.
Yeah. Okay,
it just spreads it out so that Joe Giglio is not mad at Brian Kersey 8 times a year.
So here, and my only follow up to that, and Mike, I don't know how it works. That's why I'm asking these questions. In the NFL, you've got crews that stick together. Those crews that stick together know each other. They know how they're going to call a game. And it's gotten so analytics-based that there's departments in NFL buildings that they understand, well, this is what these crews do, X, Y, Z. But on any given night in the ACC, it's a hodgepodge of guys. It could be a Ted Valentine night. It could be a Jamie. I mean, any number of things. What's stopping the ACC from having 3 guys work together throughout the entire season so that there's no inconsistency, so to speak? Because I feel like that's probably the biggest complaint that people have. I mean, I went to 3 games in one day, and the games were completely different in terms of the consistency of them all. And then a different crew gets together and it's called differently the next night. So how do you alleviate that? Is that possible?
Yeah, I don't know. It's practical. It's possible.
Okay,
Whether
gotcha.
It's practical because I think then you'll get into like the Valentine crew always calls it this way. The Groover crew always calls it this way.
Gotcha.
And it gets so. I think we battle the same kind of issue of
perceptions.
Like, right,
okay, got it.
It's like, oh, this crew's going to let us play. That crew called it tighter. That crew gives out technicals, and you get in the same. You have to start with the premise and the half joke with our coach. Officiating is really bad. Now we want it to be we want the least bad, so, because nobody likes officials.
Of course not. Of course not. Of course not.
But that's a question for you because you guys grade these guys.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to ask you for the grades, but the percentage of time. Well, you guys are like offensive linemen. You, the officials, are like offensive linemen. When they do something wrong, we talk about it. We never talk about it when they do something right.
Mm.
So we did something earlier this year with high school officials. We went out on the floor and we tried to learn for ourselves just how difficult it is. That's with no fans. That's with nobody yelling at us. We just did a practice and it was difficult. Okay, but they're also human beings. But I'm curious though. I've tried to say this after the Duke Virginia Tech game, after the Duke Virginia game, like. You got to understand, these guys get a lot of the calls right. In general, what would you say is the percentage of calls that they get right? Is it in the 90s?
It's in the 90s.
It is.
Because
okay. That's what I said.
Because the calls we talk about is that select group of really hard judgment call, like a really hard call. Because we don't, most out of bounds, 90.
We got that.
So you got a whole bunch of
there's
calls that really call themselves in a sense. So it's how, and this is the real grade in the test on it, how does he or she grade out on the hard calls?
Mm-hmm.
The once, the Duke Virginia thing that we've talked about. That's Brian Kersey, we've talked in 35 years of officiating, he's never had that. He never had that play as an official.
Yeah, it's like that's a unicorn situation. Yeah.
And when, it's not adjudicated correctly, it's very. It disappoints everybody, including the crew, the office, the staff. No one wants to get those things incorrect. But as long as we're going to use humans in this deal, then we're going to have something. So the other option is like let's play without officials. And let's see if we.
Well, here's my question: Can we play without the monitors? Can we? Because I feel like that's another frustration I think fans and even I have is that games are taking longer because they're going to the monitor to check things that why didn't you just make that call on the floor? And I feel like there's almost, again, my own perception is that there's a lack of conviction because they know they've got the safety net of the monitor.
Yeah. And I'll take it to the other side, Joe. It's not the safety net of the monitor. It's the protection in that when they're incorrect and didn't use the monitor, now it's another big deal. So, So we athletic administrations, NFL, NBA, Major League, all of us are at fault here because we said, well, we perfection is now the expectation. It used to be the goal. Yeah, everybody, every baseball umpire. Right,
I hate it.
And I'm there. Where it's gone way past trying to fix the egregious error, and that's all it was started. An egregious error.
Yeah.
You remember I can't even think of who the umpire in the bit, but the guy had the perfect game in Detroit, and it just So if you could have fixed that egregious error, that's a historical moment that pitcher didn't get to experience, and it should have happened. So an egregious error, but now it just gets drilled
down.
Now
we got Tyrese Proctor flopping.
Yeah. I mean,